And in our new Back to School series, we're sitting down with superintendents across the tri-state.
Joining us this morning to lay out his vision and plans for the upcoming year, we have Henderson County School Superintendent, Dr. Bob Lawson. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I can't say I was really excited for school when I was a child. This is probably the worst 2 weeks because you're preparing for this, but you have 11 institutions, I do believe 11 schools in the district to cover that, and you have, you know, from the littlest to the biggest eager to get out soon. How do you navigate that? How do you go into the new school year? Is it just like a teacher's lessons plan? You know, they just pull out a folder and they do the same curriculum as last year. It always changes, right?
It always changes, and like you said, for our students, it's hard to say goodbye to the summer.
Yeah.
Sometimes for staff too, and so I would like to begin by saying I hope they've had a good summer. You all know how important that time is, just to take time away from school, to have time with family, to have family trips, to enjoy one another, and that development of the child is equally important to what happens in school. So as we kind of say goodbye to the summer, all those students start to get excited for the first day of school. And although sometimes saying goodbye to the summer is hard, that build up and excitement of, remember that when it was like to be the first day of school, to get your school clothes on, to be excited to see your friends that maybe you hadn't seen this summertime. And then for the teachers and staff, all of our teachers tend to start, you can watch the doors start to be a lot more busy. They'll start coming in and getting their rooms ready and preparing their lesson plans. And just kind of through the summer, there's this build up for the big start of school.
Yeah, and you have the littlest of kids are really excited. The older kids maybe are just kind of exhausted at that point with the school process. So it's really two different flavors. You have to encourage them to stay engaged, and the other ones maybe just calm down a little bit. You'll get to this.
Yeah, and somewhat bittersweet for some of our students who are at the high school specifically. It happens so quickly that students go from their freshman year to their senior year. And so sometimes they're coming back into that high school year maybe thinking, I only have 1 year left, you know, in Henderson County Schools. And so it's a little bit bittersweet for some of those kids to know maybe they're headed toward their last year or two in our school district.
And I want to talk some about the changes coming in place. The big one, Senate Bill 181, which is something I know throughout the state of Kentucky. Can you explain what that bill actually is?
Yes, ma'am. Senate Bill 181, it's often called the Traceable Communication Bill, is an effort on the part of our legislators to make sure that communication between students and staff, whether that be teachers, coaches, club sponsors, volunteers, that be transparent and it be traceable. And so Senate Bill 181 brings into law that communication must be traceable. And so in Henderson County Schools, we have purchased an application called Rooms, what will allow for students, any kind of communication between students and staff to be traceable.
And are these things that superintendents around the Commonwealth had a chance to weigh in with maybe lawmakers before these things were passed? Did they get an opinion? Is that expertise passed down to them on what the impacts would be?
Just as you say, it's so important to have that partnership with lawmakers. In Henderson County Schools, our local House of Representatives rep is Mr. J.T. Payne, who's actually one of our assistant principals, and of course our Senator is Robbie Mills. And so we have a lot of back and forth discussions about what the implementation of that might look like. We know there's a need for traceable communication, but also we know when that becomes implemented that there are some obstacles and barriers to work through. And so as those are ongoing. And so it's always a good plan to communicate ahead of these laws, and we do that well, and I appreciate the partnership of our legislators. And as the year unfolds, it may be necessary to continue those conversations with our legislators to say, okay, we had the law, we started it from a good place, now we're implementing it. How do we move forward with knowing now the barriers and the unintended consequences that we couldn't foresee before?
And now you mentioned, you know, having that traceable account. So I was looking at the Kentucky Department of Education yesterday. Step parents don't count, cousins don't count, and folks, because this just did get implemented starting this school year. So for parents that are concerned, I mean, what would you say to them, especially for these? For some people might not say it's necessarily black and white. It's got some obstacles, as you mentioned. Do you think this might even cause some folks to resign, you know, especially volunteers?
Well, the unknown creates anxiety. It does that to all of us. Mm-hmm. And so I would just encourage them to kind of stick with it. And let's stick together through this, and we'll work together. It's going to be, for a lack of better words, somewhat of a muddy process. There's going to be some back and forth with some learning, kind of 1 step forward, 2 steps back, then 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I know our legislators well, and I know their intentions are good, and I know that our staff's intentions are good. I know our parents and students and all, we want to work together. So my encouragement is let's work through this together. All the information that they need from us as a school district, it's available on our website. There'll be more coming on our social media. And I think just that back and forth communication and an agreement that when we all work together, it goes best.
And we are running out of time on this, but I want to ask about the federal. You know, you really don't have much of a communication link to the federal side of things. So when it comes to like DE policies or DEI policies and really major funding for a lot of schools, have you already begun to navigate that and I guess find stopgaps to maybe supplement in other forms?
Well, just as you said, we had to wait a little while on the federal funds release. So we're so thankful that those funds were released, because should they not have been released, we were not going to have our students go without those services. So we had already planned, and you have to kind of plan ahead to make sure our students get those services. But obviously, should those funds not have come through, as time were to progress, we maybe couldn't have offered those services. So the fact that those federal funds have been released now means that students who need help in reading and math, that are behind grade level, and our community wants them to be educated and have those extra services, now we're going to be able to provide those more securely.
And as we wrap up, tell us about what your hope is for this school year. I know it's so exciting. You have new kids coming in, preschool, kindergarten, and then you have, of course, those seniors that are leaving for graduation at the end of the year. What are you looking forward to?
So in Henderson County Schools, we have 7 core values, and core value number 4 is genuine relationships are the foundation of everything we do. And I think this year especially, it's important that we focus on that we have a partnership together, and we continue to work together all year. In Henderson County Schools, we have such a nice community and a partnership with our community. So we hope to continue that.
It is a great community. I'm biased, though, on that one. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming in today, and we hope you have a great year ahead.
Thank you, ma'am, and go Colonels.